I think we are going to get started. I'm sure people will start trickling in as we carry on. So I think first to just say a very warm welcome to everybody. I think the last time I saw some faces were at the HR forum at the Victoria Falls event that we went to. It was such a wonderful event and just so lovely to have met a lot of you there as well. So, talking about the HR Forum event that Gavin and myself and Lakundi all attended, we did have a short time to present when we were at the event, but it just wasn't enough to cover the topic that we were looking at that was so relevant around workplace readiness and the change that we're starting to see in the workforce. And there were core four areas that we really touched on, and that we're going to be looking at a six-part series together. So those four core areas were skills gap, the skills gap that we're seeing in the workforce. How do we start to solve for it? What kind of inspiration do we start to give our talent and our leaders in the workforce with this change and the kind of consequence that it's having into the workforce? The agility to be able to change and the visibility that we would need to be able to see the talent of our workforce and the skills that we have across the organization. So these are the core four areas that we have created a six-part series specifically for the HR Forum. So we are delighted to be able to join you today. And we're going to be each month hosting a webinar around very specific topics into these areas. So today we are going to be joined by our dear Gavin, if you got to meet him at the Victoria Falls event, and it is going to be around building capabilities in a fast-paced world. So, just to give a very brief overview of what Gavin is going to be covering, it's just around how we've been driven by this digital kind of transformation, AI, and these shifting workplace expectations that organizations have to continually adapt towards. So, how do we build the capabilities that are not just once off, but is something that's really being integrated into the organization and has a very, very strategic imperative? And how prepared is our workforce for this? And for you as HR or L&D to be able to drive this. So I am going to hand over to Gavin, who's going to be with us for the next 60 minutes. Please add any questions that you have in the chat. We'd love to hear from you, any questions, and I will get back to you. So Gav, I'm going to hand over to you.
Thank you, Michelle, and welcome everyone. Good to be in front of you again. Hopefully we did meet at the last event, and if not, my name is Gavin Janse from Rensburg. I'm a senior solutions consultant at LRMG, and I've been in this business for over 20 years now, working with organizations similar to yours in this whole digital and skills transformational journey they're on. So I'm very excited to talk to you about this topic that is close to my heart and all our businesses, right? So without any further ado, I'm going to start and go into the content. I will put my camera off and for you to focus on the presentation. And like Michelle says, please clap or agree or ask questions in the chat, and we will address that, towards the end of the session. So let's go. Okay, so today we're talking about building capabilities in a fast-paced world, and specifically this concept of enabling your workforce to be ready. So what we're seeing, why are we here today? So we live in a perfect storm at the moment with, AI and technology disruption everywhere. We've got the geopolitical conditions happening, as you know, with America and with, wars everywhere. Generational shift is a reality. We more than five to six generations in our workforce, and each of those have got their own requirements and different ways of working and learning. And then there's the labor market, based on all of these factors. What we're seeing is that the 83% of CEOs, that's 4 out of 5 CEOs, is concerned about the availability of skills within the organizations. And to make things worse is that 50%, less than 50% of organizations, and I would say even less than that, and depending on who you speak with and those I've spoken with, have got a formal succession plan for their leaders and for their subject matter experts. And this last one is quite interesting, and I think you'll agree with me, is that, most people, less than 45%, fully understand their current skills and the gaps they have to succeed in their roles and future roles. We're also seeing there's a lack of qualified talent, but based on these shifts in the markets, people are immigrating, leaving Africa, leaving South Africa, to go and find opportunities elsewhere. And I found these stats very interesting by the World Economic Forum. 15 to 20 million young people are expected to join the African workforce every year for the next 2 decades. Just think of the volumes here. By 2030, Africa will be home to more than 25% of the world's under 25 population. Because we know outside of Africa, there's a decline in young people. And then 15% of the global working age would be in Africa. Think about what we need to do in that space. So if you think of work output, it used to be this formula, full-time employee times efficiency times productivity gives you a performing, you can determine if your workforce is performing. However, the formula has changed. The future of work now says human plus agent times efficiency times productivity. So we're living in a world of agentic AI, and it's just dramatically changing the way that humans are catching up to technology. So we used to have this curve of where we were saying, and I remember this pre-COVID, where technology is fast outperforming humans. Now, with the concept of agentic AI and humans partnering with AI and technology, you can see that we need to catch up very quickly, and we actually are. I mean, just in the last year, we've seen how AI is supporting and making our work easier, hopefully. At LRMG, we look at this workforce readiness around 4 key pillars. Skills gap, which we spoke about. So there's, what do we have and what do we need? The inspirational gap. So are our people aligned to our business strategy? And do they belong here, and do they want to grow in our environments? The visibility gap, huge. I speak to a lot of organizations, and because of multiple systems and data everywhere, they actually don't know what they have, and it's difficult for them to identify where they need to be and how their people need to grow and what they need to do and what does the future look like. And then this creates this massive agility gap. So if my business changes, how quick can I adapt? If someone leaves an organization, how quickly can we realign? So it's a reality. And what we see is there are some accelerators that we can utilize. The 2 accelerators that we position is technology and culture. So the ability to adapt to change is out of sync with the pace of change. This is now seen, exponentially. The world is exponentially growing. The gaps are growing, and we have a massive amount of youth that's coming into the market, and we need to get them upskilled quickly. So if we look at the 3 core areas of the skills that we require to change quickly, so that agility there, it's difficult for organizations to meet the expectations of their people, which means, firstly, they, top down, are they aligned to our strategy, and bottom up, are we providing our people with the skills, the experiences to develop? Can they go? Our people can go anywhere now. They can work hybridly. They can travel, and then also we don't have visibility around the workforce data. So what do we have and where do we need to be? This creates this workforce readiness gap. So today I want to talk about 3 areas to how we feel that we can close this and how we're helping our clients and could possibly help you to close these gaps, right? So let's look at this. So first I'm going to focus on the skills gap. So if you look at your organization and you look at the lack of qualified talent, what we see is, there's skills gaps for sure. We understand that. The risk of non-compliance within your environment. This could be, based on your area, but also what about the future? Inconsistent onboarding. I'm seeing this a lot. It takes too long for us to onboard people into our organizations. The experience is bad, and then they leave us. So the promise we make before they join the organization versus the experience they have is not met. Right? And also, there's an ROI in that. If I onboard someone in half the time, they can be active and providing value to the organization quicker. Low productivity within the organization, especially if we look at the hybrid workforces, if we look at people not meeting their targets, they're not growing, the lack of skills there. And then I've seen this also a lot, and it's based on the space we're in, legacy infrastructure and scalability. So, organizations are building out technology over time, and that technology is getting old, and the technology is not talking to each other, right? So what can we do about this? We are helping organizations to identify the critical skills within their workforce. Do they know what the critical skills is needed for their specific roles? Do we understand what they have? If you think of the fact that you've employed someone maybe 10 years ago, and we had that old CV, what are they looking like today? What extra skills do they have? How can we utilize those? Do we understand what skills they need and are developing? And then also, are we suggesting and helping them with the skills that they need based on their current roles and going forwards? All of these concepts are currently available and underpinned by our wonderful friend AI. If we look at compliance management as an example, this is very important to ensure that we stay ahead of risk. We want to automate training, tracking, and qualifications. And the way to do that is to provide readiness across task-based, role-based, and position-based models. Platforms can do this, can help you scale. You don't have to run this on a spreadsheet, or anytime you want to understand, how ready is my workforce, how compliant is my workforce. You should be able to do that within seconds. And very importantly, what I've seen, and this is based on, just the fact that, some systems are just not keeping up. Our employees are used to modern experiences, Facebook, TikTok, you name them. Are we giving them a great experience, or, do they hate the work interfaces, but they're always spending time on the external social interfaces? Is our platforms AI powered? What does that mean? Well, it creates a hyper-personalized environment based on my role, those people that I follow, my work colleagues. And are we providing them with a modern interface that's on a one-stop and that I want to come back to? And it's really helping me grow within my environment. I'm showing some examples here. These are real-time examples from interfaces and from platforms that we partner with and that our clients are using. The result of applying these principles is we can build a future workforce based on AI-driven compliance, scale this out, create a modern learning and development space. So this kind of top-down, yes, you need to complete training, you need to complete learning, but also bottom-up. I want to build out future capability because, I'm interested in AI, I'm interested in technology, etc. Unified data. One system or a system sits on top of other systems where you can actually look at the full of your employees or of an employee and what skills we have, what skills we need. And very importantly, skills-based development. Skills are the smallest component that we can track, and it's easy to develop content, learning, and capability around those. And organizations are moving towards the skills-based organizations, not for the sake of skills, but for the sake of performance and scalability. Let's look at the expectation gap. So how do we align our company goals with our people's aspirations? This journey has an impact on leadership. Leadership aligned? Are they bought into the strategy of the organization? Do they understand the strategy of the organization? Are they leaving us? And is our people aligned? Is everyone aligned to my manager, to my goals, to the organizational values? People are also not seeing the future. I'm sitting in this current role. What are my opportunities? The most generations now want to understand that, hey, I'm in this role, but I don't want to sit here forever. I want to move. I want to move up or sideways. I want to be challenged. Do my employees understand what skills they need? The pipeline for critical roles, as we mentioned earlier, is a massive issue in organizations. If your key talent leaves, can you replace that talent within weeks, days? That's a risk for the business. So your succession planning is uncertain. So what we suggest and what clients are doing is develop career pathing, and we want to. This career pathing needs to be personal. So based on my role, and here you can see an example, and the other roles that I am a possible good fit for. Only a platform can do this because it understands my skills and other role skills, and then does a matrix around it and suggests, what roles would be a good fit for you. And this is where skills come in. So the skills-based opportunity matching is very powerful, and it's available. Everything powered through AI. So if I look at an example here, if I'm interested in, for instance, this person is moving from a customer service manager to an inside sales advisor, which was a fairly good match, there's the path. I can choose the path, and the system will start suggesting, well, what are the activities that you need to do? And I'm not just talking about learning, I'm talking about a blended approach of coaching, etc., etc. Talking about coaching, what are the mentors that's available in my environment that I can connect with based on the skills that I need to develop? So you can see, mentorship opportunities, and I can connect with my mentors or a mentor, but also projects and vacancies. This gives people hope. This gives people to stay in the organization, to know there's an opportunity for me to grow. Without that, they can go anywhere else. How do we retain our top talent and key roles? First of all, we need to identify the key roles, track, develop, and manage the high and low performing talent within the organization. So who are those people? Who are the people that is a good match for a role now, for the future? I mean, succession is not an overnight thing. Succession is a journey. It's a plan. You need to put it in for 1, 2, 3 years. Who are ready? You typically need 3 to 4 people that's aligned to a specific key role. You want to create paths to develop the future role. If a person's not ready now, how do I get them to that specific role? And then we want to also, performance manage people and make sure that they, aligned to the business strategy. But not just through, once or twice a year assessments. We want to have continuous feedback. Here's an example, and we can see, for instance, we are the potential versus performance in a 9-box grid, as an example. Another example of a leadership program that we've put together for a client and how it managed in the platform. And here you can see, there's a group, a cohort, they can collaborate, there's content, there's conversations, it's gamified. It really makes it interesting for people to be engaged within the platform and so we can get the results. We talked about continuous performance and conversations. This should be something that you do on a regular basis. So, we call it check-ins. So you want to have weekly or monthly check-ins. And how does the system help a manager to, for instance, have a template-based conversation with his or her team? In that conversation, the manager can look, well, what's the person's goals? Um, what does their succession plan look like? How far they're tracking on those goals? Really, also, what are the skills that they have, and suggest and declared skills? This way, we're helping the manager and the employee having conversations that can drive performance. And all of this stuff is recorded so that I can go back and see what I need to do. So it's not just a once-off. Very important to have these regular check-ins in the performance process. The result of this is you want to move your high performance to the next level. You want to keep your high performance. So, and you want to develop your leaders. You want to ensure there's a valid, relevant succession plan, and you want to provide your people with mobility. Internal mobility is very important. I've got opportunities to move to other roles, and it starts from the recruitment process, not just during a normal workday. So as you're recruiting new employees, you're starting to collect this data that forms part of your talent process and your mobility within the organization. Let's look at the visibility gap. This is an interesting one since the world is changing so fast, as we've seen. So what we're seeing is, it's very difficult to plan if you don't know what you're planning for. We're seeing fragmented people data and program governance within organizations because of all of the systems or lack of data. They can't address the technology or regulatory changes within their business quick enough. There's poor visibility into capabilities. So how do you know what to plan for if you don't know what you have? It's difficult to interpret the employee data. So the data is outdated, as an example. So it takes a long time to collect this data, and by the time you have it, it's outdated again. And how do I now move from insights to action? And also, what do I need to do? So what is the future looking like? So not just backward facing, forwards facing. Basically, we need to understand what our people can do today, but more importantly, guide to tomorrow's strategy. Think of it as a GPS. We know where we are now. We need to know where we're going, and there's a pathway towards it. However, that path could change, so we need to be agile enough that at any time, if our business or our people changes, we are ready to adapt. That whole agility conversation we had before. So how is this possible? Well, what you need is dimensional skills data. So not just inward facing within your organization, but also based on the labor markets. So we partner. So we partner with a platform that is unique in the world, that provides us what they call quantum labor analysis. You can look at the volumes of data we're looking at here. It doesn't just look at your traditional CVs, professional online profiles, job descriptions, etc. A lot of systems do that, and we have that data. That is backward facing. But what you're interested in and need to look at is other sources of data. So government, economic data, annual reports, MOOCs, academic journals, etc. And this makes the difference. And you can just imagine the volume of data. All of this pulled together will give you a better view of what skills and roles are looking like today within my organization, but also aligned to the external markets, right? Are we on track? Are we aligned? What's happening with the future roles, etc.? And this data is across 200 countries, and including our beloved Africa. So you can look at data in your industry, within region, etc., etc. Imagine we have a problem and we want to quickly see, for instance, what is the workforce insights for our CHRO? This is a critical role, and we need to understand, how do we build this role out, and are we on track? We ask the system a question, it comes back with some suggestions, and we say, okay, well, we'd like to see what's the impact of generative AI on my company, which the system understands, and basically it will go and search the database and come back with some results based on that labor market data. This is available today, and as I said, we got access to this information if you will need to go to that space. So the results of that is we unlock dynamic workforce planning. So dynamic workforce planning, important workforce planning, is something that all organizations are constantly thinking about and need to be thinking if they want to be relevant. Your talent program analysis. Are your talent programs aligned to the skills required and future skills? And then your talent benchmarking. If I don't have internal talent, where can I get external talent? What are my competitors doing? What are others in the markets doing? Specifically in roles, we've seen one of our clients were looking at app developers. And what they were doing is they were looking internally. Well, they said, okay, well, based on we're asking our internal SMEs, what does an app developer need from a skills point of view? And we did some chat GPR research, etc., etc., and they came out with some skills for a job profile. What they forgot was that app developers of the future needed AI, needed all sorts of new skills, and based on the data that we could provide them, they could now build out skills for the future for an app developer. That's kind of power that we have at your hands. And therefore, we can transform. If you're thinking of the skills transformation within your learning and talent development space, this is the area that the platform can help with, and we can help you with. So all of this is great, but not everyone is at the same space. I mean, I haven't spoken to one organization that's got everything right. There are always gaps. There are always areas for growth. So we meet you where you're at based on your skills AI, and basically your evolution. Okay. We partner with a company called Cornerstone, and Cornerstone is the leader in this space. And you'll see by way of these data points, is they've got a lot of customers that's telling them where they need to be. They influence these customers, and customers influence them. And it's a big organization, over 4,000 employees. So for our customers and people we partner with, this is good to know that these guys are looking after current and future needs. So what I just showed you there around the 3 areas is depicted in this picture. And it's modular. So we have customers that don't use the full suite. They've already got, for instance, a HR platform, and they've got a performance system, but that they're interested in, expanding their learning experiences based on future skills. This whole platform is core area is skills. So you get this workforce data as part of the platform to help you drive the skills-based organization and development in the environment. So you can see the value that the journey can offer you as you unlock features. And the good thing to know is that you can start just with learning or just with performance and grow it out. And a lot of our organizations like that concept. We've got customers that started with learning and then grown into the other areas as they got more mature in the space. Or replace some platforms that were outdated with a much more integrated system. So we are a very modular platform, and we do meet you where you're at. And LRMG provides all the consulting services around this change. As I mentioned before, technology and culture is the key accelerators for us to drive change in your environment. What is it? The results by implementing these strategies and us helping you with it is faster upskilling to be agile, the improved employee experience. You want people to come back. They want to learn more. They want to grow in your environment. Your leadership readiness now and for the future, and then also to drive continuous innovation. Okay, so I've come to the end of my presentation and discussion. Into hear any comments or feedback on what you've seen or your environment, or you agree or disagree, or any questions you have. Michelle, was there? I didn't notice this chat. Was there anything that that stood out?
Uh, no, not yet, Gav. And please, if anybody's got questions, just ask us on this forum. You can just either put your hand up or you can just talk to us. We're very happy to take any questions. And I think while we wait for that, Gav, I just had one or two questions that I know that I get asked quite a lot. And one of them is when we talk about modular, so from an HR perspective, for example, there are many things in our area that we have to manage. There are things like recruitment, there are things like performance, there are things like your policies. And sometimes you have different platforms in different places, and it feels a little bit like it's all over the place. Something like this looks like it's a really like kind of seamless experience that brings everything into one. So I just wanted to check with you around that. And the second part of the question is, do we need to do all of this at once, or is it something that you can just do as you grow?
Yes, good question, Michelle. So we typically go in as a modular concept. So when we deal with clients, like you say, they already have a platform of some sorts. Either something's not working for them, so they want to replace, or they want to combine, or they've got platforms that work well, but they need an extra component, right? So they've got maybe an LMS and they need performance, or they've got an HR platform and a recruitment system and they need learning and performance. And Cornerstone as a platform is an open platform. So we're a non-jealous system, if I can put it in simple terms, integrates with other data. We generally always integrate with an HR and payroll of any types across, we've been in Africa 8 years. But also migration. So you can migrate from a current. So maybe you've started with an example, a Moodle, and you now want to move to a more enterprise level platform because of compliance or because of AI or because of skills. We migrate that data. So it's always a meet you where you're at scenario. So we look at your maturity, so where you're at, and where do you need to be. So initially, you want to, you've got one or two programs that you want to launch. That's what we start with. We don't typically get a client that just goes for everything at once, because there's a journey that they need to go through, and we also don't want to do that because we want to have success from the beginning. And we also need to consider the people using the platform, because there's most probably a lot of systems in the environment already. So you bring in a new system, you want to take it slow, you want to make sure that they get value out of it. So yes, we work with clients to understand what they have, and then how can we assist them in addressing and uncover those needs initially first, and then see how we can help, and then we backed up by a great digital platform.
Thanks, Gav. That makes a lot of sense. Just to check, any questions from anybody that we can invite into the forum?
By the way, there's this QR that you can scan if you can give us feedback, please. I think Mickey also put it in the chat.
I think, Gav, just while we're waiting for any other questions, something that I think HR always is so there's a big focus on is we have job roles, we have competencies, then we have the skills attached to that, and then the skills gap. Does the platform have the ability to help with this critical area?
Yeah. As I mentioned there, there's the SkyHive skills data that's now included in the platform. So it doesn't matter what module you're looking at, and generally skills is quite uh, prevalent in the learning space, because you want to kind of look at roles linked to actually recruiting and learning. You want to look at your roles with those skills. You get access to labor market data. So what you can do is you can say, well, okay, let me see if my role and skills are mapped to what the external labor markets are saying, or I'm happy with what I have. That's what I'll go with. So the system actually helps with that foundational part. Is job roles and skills is foundational to any organization, because without that, how do you know what you need to develop for? As an example, for the example I had around the app developer. So if you think of an app developer or an HR specialist or whatever the case might be, you may or might not have the skills for that role. However, this Cornerstone comes with all of those skills. You can decide, okay, that's a good fit for me, or I want to add or not. You can actually do that. It's not a one size fit all scenario, but you get access to all of this skills data, which already helps you as a practitioner to get those skills mapped very quickly.
Brilliant. Thank you, Gav. That sounds incredible. Just to check, any questions, any comments, any maybe even struggles that you might be having at the moment that we could also potentially try help with? And I think maybe, Gav, I think something I often hear is, what kind of support do you get with a platform like this? Because often with a platform like this, it can sometimes feel overwhelming. So is there support in place for something like this, like a platform?
Yeah. So LRMG is a Cornerstone partner. We've been a Cornerstone partner for over 15 years. Cornerstone follows the partner model. So they utilize partners to implement their product. They are the software vendor, and they're developing fantastic software. And LRMG implements it for them. LRMG actually also implements for their international clients, and we've got a massive team that does that. Our model is an enablement and support and model. So what we do is we implement the platform. We then support you through the period of the implementation and post, but we also assign a customer success manager to every client that supports you throughout the period of the contract, so that on a regular basis we are checking in with you to understand, are you maximizing the platform? Are we understanding your strategy? Are we aligning to your strategy? So unfortunately, when you partner with us, it's a partner for life. We don't let you go, and therefore, we want to make sure that you maximize your investment and that we align to your strategy, because again, as you saw, strategies change. We are in a very agile world, so we constantly also need to understand your business the whole time, and therefore that's the model we follow very successfully, and it works very well.
Thanks, Gav. We have a question here from Misa. How does HR ensure management is engaged in the growth and the upskilling of your employees?
By including them into this process. So we've had scenarios where during the implementation, and generally what we do is we say, well, what kind of programs can we put in place and partner with management? So two things. For instance, a leadership program or a management program, be part of that. Secondly, let's give the managers tools to make their lives easier. As a manager, how can I, for instance, see if my team is performing? How can I see if my team is growing? How can I support my team? Because I'm a busy person also, right? The manager, as an example. How can I support my team, and how, to grow, and how can my team support me with eyes and so forth? So it's very much a partnership that we want, and managers are super important. And those are normally the guys that are too busy to help within, our space. But we want to partner with them and help them. So that's part of the change that we want to put in place, and say to them, hey, we're coming to you to help you to perform yourself and your team.
Thanks, Gav. I'm just going to add into that. I think the amazing ability of this kind of platform is also the visibility that it's going to give to management of what is going on with your employees. So, what are they doing from the learning? How are they doing? And it's having that kind of visibility into this kind of platform. So, when they're doing performance reviews, for example, you're seeing the skills gaps, you're able to then get the learning or the training that they require. They're able to track that as well. So, if you can't do that, then they're not going to be able to know how to then be able to ensure that this is happening and to track this. So that is the absolute importance of that visibility as well.
Yeah.
Misa, just to check, have we answered your question?
Yeah, she did say thank you. I think just to add there also, Michelle and Misa, is we found success when we've got top-down support, leadership management. So we start with those guys because generally employees want to grow, they want to perform, and we need the managers to drive that. I mean, it can't be up to L&D to drive development at the business unit level, as an example, right? So you kind of want that top-down, but also bottom-up approach. And a system like this enables bottom-up, meaning I can take care of my team's development, I can take care of my own development, etc. And obviously, there's a bit of a change required there, and we can help with that. But that's a very important piece that you've highlighted there.
Thanks, Gav. There was another question. How do you ensure employees are engaged in their learning and development journey? That's always a question we get.
Yes, by giving them the opportunities, right? So, firstly, we know that employees need to understand that there's a skills gap that they need to address, or performance gap. That's kind of the top-down approach. You need to do these things because of your role. But as soon as you start helping them understand what's in it for them, for instance, I can collaborate with others to learn. I can look at my aspirations. I want to learn more, but there needs to be options. So not just the platform, but great content within the platform. I can grow here, I can belong here, and I can collaborate here. That's the inspirational part. We've seen that if you inspire people to learn and grow, they will come back. So what you want to do is you want people to come back. And it's another part of actually change, if you think about it, because if they're currently not doing it, how do we get them to, trust the platform and trust the organization that, we've got their best interest in heart? And that's how we do that, is a kind of create an environment that is trusting, but I can also collaborate with others, and it's easy and simple to use. So it's an exciting platform to go into. It's not a boring old menu-driven system, etc. And there's always opportunities. One of the spaces I spoke about earlier was this career pathing. If you can allow employees to say, hey, I'm in my current role, this is what I need to do in my role, and I've got visibility. People like visibility. They need to understand what do they need to do now and where they can go. Yes, there's other roles that I can move in, that I can learn into. Doesn't mean those roles will become available, but at least, I want to build out skills for future roles. And when the organization looks at succession, they can say, hey, but I see Gavin was interested in a CRHR role, and he's already started to build out those skills. Or, hey, we want to create an AI or dev team. Here's some guys learning about Python, etc., etc. So it's basically visibility and opportunity. That's how you drive people to come back.
Absolutely. Thanks, Gavin. I think just to add on to that also is, you get engagement when you have the kinds of tools that you need um, on this journey that you've got. And it's exactly what Gav was saying. I've got what I need now to be able to do my job, which could be your upskilling. I have what I need to be relevant, which could be your reskilling, because it might be just something that you don't necessarily know at this point, but it's going to make you relevant in future. And then the third component of that is the multi-skilling, and that's the component of future fit, of besides what I'm doing, besides what I need to know into another skill, what can I now do across all the areas to make sure within this organization, this industry, that I will always have a component of skill sets there. And this is the absolute ability that this kind of platform will give you, because it's not just for one person or a selected few. Everybody gets the same opportunity as well. And that's the kind of inspiration that is going to bring that kind of engagement as well.
Yeah. And Michelle, I want to add also that one area that we know everyone is busy. They super busy within their roles. Now we're asking them to learn more, asking them to upskill, real skill, multi-skill. So we don't people don't always want to go to a system. They want to learn where they're at. So kind of learning in the flow of work. So we as an example, Cornerstone is this agentic learning capability. I'm sitting in Word, I'm sitting in Teams. I've got a question on a formula. Let me ask a co-pilot, how to solve this problem. The learning will come from your platform, or I'm in Salesforce, or I'm going to have a conversation with a client. I'm a bit nervous about, their feedback, or I need to negotiate. You're right. I don't want to go into another system now. Quickly on my app, on my mobile device, I'm traveling. Give me a quick nugget on how to tackle difficult conversations. That's where we're going. Is this learning in the flow of work. That really also helps people back into the platform, because then they can say, actually, what? This thing works for me. I can trust it. It's what's in it for me. It will make me perform better. It will make me, better in my role.
Okay. Any other questions from anybody else on the call before we wrap this up? Okay, so I think just from our side, it's been so wonderful to be with you again. Lovely to engage with you, Gavin. Thank you for your time today and taking us through this. I think it's critical to what I think all of us are facing in the workforce at the moment. Just to let you know that we will have in August, and we'll send out the date, the next webinar that'll be coming up. And that'll be on the power of true listening and building a future that adapts. So I hope that you'll be joining us. Oh, we do have another Helen. How are you? Nice to see you. Just a quick question from Helen Gav. Gav loves this question, Helen. What are the cost implications?
That's a loaded question, I think, because it just depends on a lot of factors, right? So certainly it's not a free system, as we know. The value in the platform is what it addresses, so the ROI, and we really help organizations with that. That's a very good question. Everyone wants to understand, because at the end of the day, someone has to pay for the platform. And generally, those people that pay for the platform want to understand two things. How can it make me money, or how can it save me money? Right? And we need to prove it to them as HR practitioners. And that's what we do and help you with, is kind of the impact. As an example, previously we talked about onboarding. If I can save you half of the time to onboard people to get them performing, that's already a valuable impact from an ROI point of view. If I can, for instance, bring your attrition rates down, big saving, because as we know, it takes a lot of money to employ new people, to get them into the culture. If I can address your risk for a leader from a succession point of view, massive saving there from a risk point of view. But we've got data around this, and we'd be happy to work with you, Helen. For instance, if you want to position this with your executive boards, or the CEO and CFO, to drive why we need to invest in our talent for the future, we can help with that.
Helen, I hope this answered your question. Any other questions before we close the session? Thanks so much, Helen. Okay. Thank you all for joining us. It's been wonderful to be with you. We really hope to see you in the next session. We'll be sending out the date. I think it's going to be the 13th of August. Gavin, thank you again. We're going to have another session with Gavin coming up in about 2 months' time. So we look forward to bringing you into the space again, Gavin, and thank you so much. Wishing you all a wonderful day ahead.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great week further.
Bye-bye.